Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the primary weapon, the Snipetron Vandal. But before we start, let's go over our commenter board. The first commenter of the last video was Henry Chavez, 4187, and the top commenter of the last video was Bards 98. And then we have our recent channel supporters here, Whoopty-Wham, Nice Bear, and Colonel 06. Thank you so much for your support. Unique and interesting things about the Snipetron Vandal is that it has two different zoom modes. The first one is 2.5 times zoom for a plus 30% headshot damage buff. And the second one is a 6 times zoom for a plus 50% headshot damage buff. So to maximize your damage, you're going to be wanting to use it in its second zoom mode. It also has an innate 3-meter punch through. I did a lot of testing this morning with this weapon to try to figure out what was the best average kill per minute setup for it, and it came down to being a setup that is very similar to another weapon, the Daikyu Prime Bow. Now, the differences between the Snipetron Vandal and the Daikyu Prime Bow, most of those differences are in favor of the Daikyu Prime Bow. For instance, the Daikyu Prime Bow, because it's a bow, can use longbow sharp shot in its arcane slot, whereas the Snipetron Vandal is stuck using deadhead. The Daikyu Prime Bow has a much better status chance on its blast, where I think it's like 80-something% chance to produce blast. So most of the time you're producing a blast proc. If you see here on the Snipetron, it's only a 20, or I should look at status chance here. It's only a 26.2% chance to produce a blast proc. So much less of a chance there. The one thing that the Snipetron Vandal has going for it over the Daikyu is that it's a bit easier to use. The Daikyu is a bow, so you have to pull it back, you have to kind of charge it, has that kind of charge up mechanic there. Whereas the Snipetron is just a hit scan gun, so you just click the button and you get instant damage. So the ease of use is slightly better than the Daikyu Prime Bow, but pretty much everything else is better on the Daikyu Prime Bow. And so the Snipetron Vandal just ends up being like a bargain Temu version of the Daikyu Prime Bow, but we'll still go over how to build it here. Now, you all know if you've watched me before that I don't use Rivens on my builds, but I just want to mention something with the Snipetron Vandal because I think in this weapon's case, a Riven is almost needed for it to be closer to being as strong as the Daikyu Prime Bow. I don't think it will ever be as strong as the Daikyu Prime Bow, but it'll be a little bit closer. Well, let's look at the stat here. Why are we only getting 26% chance to produce blast? If we look at our status here, it's only 26% chance. Well, it's because the puncture weighting is gigantic on the Snipetron Vandal. Even if you use the regular Snipetron where it has a lower puncture weighting, it's still very high. I think it's 150 or 160. And then on the regular Snipetron, impact and slash also go up. So you're not really changing much there going to the Snipetron over the Snipetron Vandal. Plus the Snipetron Vandal has better stats. So one thing you could do with the Snipetron Vandal is you could get a Riven with negative puncture. If you lower this puncture weighting, then you're going to get better chance to produce your blast procs. Because the big thing with the Snipetron Vandal, I mean, it's only a 26% chance to produce that blast proc. So, only 1 out of 4 of your shots on average, you could get very unlucky, but only 1 out of 4 of your shots on average is nuking those enemies. Which is a little bit unfortunate there. With a good Riven with negative puncture, that could be more like 50% chance. Now let's go over the mods. We have primary acuity for weak point damage and weak point critical chance, but our multi-shot can't be modified. Now, if you know me, I am a big acuity hater. I don't like this mod. I will almost always go with a multi-shot build over an acuity build unless there is an actual reason, unless it's actually changing the kill per minute by a significant amount. And on this weapon, it does. It actually makes sense to use primary acuity over multi-shot. So even if you're an acuity hater like me, you really need to be using acuity on this weapon to get the most out of it. Galvanized scope is for critical chance. Target acquired is for plus 60% headshot multiplier. That makes sense because we're going for an acuity build. We're going to be stacking scope, so we're going to be getting a lot of headshots. Pretty much every shot should be a headshot, so target acquired is kind of a no-brainer there. Next, we have Hammer Shot for critical damage and status chance. This helps a little bit by making our blast procs a little bit more consistent. They're still not very consistent though, but Hammer Shot still helps. Critical Delay for critical chance. Vital Sense for critical damage. In the next 2 slots, we're going to be making Blast with the 260/60. So we have the Heat 60/60 and the Cold 60/60 to make Blast. I also tested this setup with primed cryo rounds, the big primed cold mod instead over rhyme rounds. And I mean, it will increase the damage that you do, but it will not give you more percent chance to produce blast. Rhyme rounds gives you about a 3% more chance to produce blast procs. It doesn't seem like a lot, but on a weapon where you're really banking on trying to get consistent blast procs, it does mean a lot, only 3%. Now, if you had like we were talking before, if you had a really good Riven that reduced your puncture by a pretty significant amount, and all of a sudden your blasts went up by, you know, a really good amount, well, then you might be able to switch the rhyme rounds into prime cryo rounds then. But without a Riven, I definitely recommend rhyme rounds over the prime cryo. In the Exile slot, we go for Prime Stabilizer. Deadhead by itself will not completely remove your recoil. Prime Stabilizer or regular Stabilizer will completely remove your recoil. And then in the Arcane slot, we go for Primary Deadhead for 360% flat damage, 30% headshot multiplier, and negative recoil. This is how you build out the primary weapon, the Snipetron Vandal. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, consider leaving a like and subscribing for future content. So now we'll have a 5-minute gameplay portion showcasing the weapon, and when that's done, we'll come back to the Orbiter and we'll give it its final score and rank. So I'll see you guys again after the gameplay. Alrighty, we're about to start this 5-minute gameplay portion up here. Let's go ahead and hack the terminal, and we'll get into this weapon. Like the Daikyu Prime, you want to be extremely careful with your shots. Every shot should be a headshot. I'm a little bit warmed up this morning. I did my 10-minute kill tests already. But admittedly, I've been playing a lot of Borderlands 4 this week, and most of the weapons there are hipfire. So like I loaded up Warframe, and I'm like, man, I had to lock in a bit because I'm used to hip firing in Borderlands all week now. My aiming is not where it used to be. So you're gonna see, we're really hoping to get those nuking hits. There we go, we got a little bit of a nuke there. There we go. There we go again. See, it's kind of a luck thing. It's about a 26% chance, but sometimes it'll happen 2 times in a row. Sometimes you'll go through 2 full mags without it happening a single time. So yeah, the consistency is not great. Whereas like the Daikyu Prime, again, I'm trying to remember exactly what the percentage was. I think when it was fully built out, it's about an 80-something%. So like it's almost every shot you have a blast proc happening. This is like 1 out of 4. Oh my goodness. Don't steal my weapon. This gun's already hurting. You don't need to steal it. Leave me alone. I think if I had the choice between this weapon and the Daikyu Prime, I would pick the Daikyu Prime every time. But, you know, there are certain game modes where you don't get a choice. You know, the Duviri, sometimes you're not going to get a choice there. You're just going to get the Snipetron. Why you would pick the Snipetron over the 2 other options? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they're really bad options. I'm trying to think of like 2 other primaries that are kind of bad. These damn Drakmasters still... Oh, he stole it again, like right away. Get out of here. I'm also playing in the 2.5 times mode right now. I should be zoomed in a little bit more. That's my bad. I mean, if you want to play it in the 2.5 times, that's not a horrible thing either. It's 20% more headshot damage, but if you can secure more kills because it's easier to see in that 2.5 instead of the 6 times, then you know you'll get more kill per minute at the end because it's just comfier for you. So you can kind of make that decision yourself. I would say try to practice in the 6 times and get used to it. But if you don't want to, or if it's just too much for like too much zoom, then just use the 2.5 times. That's okay. if you really, really hate Acuity, I know like on console and on mobile, like headshots can be really hard. So if you really, really hate Acuity, you could do a multi-shot build instead. You could just, you know, go diffusion over Acuity there, and it would still be pretty decent. It's just that you're not going to get as big of blast procs. Although they might be more consistent because you're getting three shots that will be hitting for 26%. So you get weaker damage and weaker blast procs, but they'll be a bit more consistent than they will with this one. So it's not the end of the world. If you really hate Acuity, you could always go multi-shot too. Not that big of a deal. I think once you get a ribbon though with negative puncture, then there is a gigantic difference between Acuity and multi-shot, and you really do need to go Acuity at that point though. There still is a pretty big difference though between multi-shot and Acuity, even without a ribbon. It's just that it's not huge, you know. There's an option to go multi-shot if you really hate Acuity. Just like the Daikyu Prime, these guys are a pain in the butt to headshot because they move around so much. Let's deal with these Thraxes. We'll kill the Acolyte and then we'll get out of here. The range Thrax is not too bad to deal with, but this melee one, he moves so crazy. That was one shot on Mania. This actually does pretty good Acolyte damage, but you need to hit headshots. That's 2 shots on Mania. See, can we get a third headshot? I missed. Whiff that one. Whiff that again. Come on, Salt. Don't embarrass yourself. You embarrass yourself. You know, it's Mania too, so he's got Zephyr's Turbulence up. That's probably why it's not hitting. That's my excuse. That's my excuse. Okay, there we go. All right, let's see if we can get this Thrax here. Come on, we got to deal with the Thraxes before we leave. There we go. That's one of the negatives with Acuity over a multi-shot build, is that you need headshots to actually do good damage. Whereas multi-shot, you could just kind of like blindly shoot into them. So yeah, let's see here. 365 in 5-ish minutes. I know we took like another 2 minutes to kill the Thraxes and the Acolyte there. So let's head back to the Orbiter now. Welcome back to the Orbiter, guys. So let's go over how the Snipetron Vandal did in its 3 10-minute runs on Steel Path Lewis Circulus. It got 502, 518, and 564 kills, putting it in the B tier for kill per minute potential. That's low B tier, but it's still B tier. Now, when it comes to single target potential, it's pretty good. As you saw in the video there, it was 3 direct hits to kill the Acolyte, a starter Steel Path Acolyte. I know I whiffed a bunch on that 3rd shot, but it was 3 direct hits to take him out. And they do need to be headshots. If they're not headshots, they're going to be doing pretty much no damage, but it's still pretty good. So I would say it's A tier for single target potential. Now, kind of taking a step back and talking about both the kill per minute and the single target, it's really dependent on this weapon on user skill. Because this is an Acuity build on a weapon that's very skill based, it really is dependent on user skill. If I consider myself average to slightly above average in getting headshots, if you consider yourself worse, then the kill per minute or single target might be worse for you. Or if you consider yourself better than me at getting headshots, then the kill per minute or single target could be better, right? Because you're more consistently and quicker or more quickly getting those 3 headshots on the Acolyte, where it took me a bit to get those 3 headshots on target. Or if you're getting more headshots consistently, then you might be getting more kill per minute there too. So really dependent on user skill on Acuity builds, on where they kind of rank there. For me personally, B tier for kill per minute, A tier for single target. Now, when it comes to ease of use, it's not that great. This is a weapon that's very similar to the Daikyu Prime, and the Daikyu Prime we gave the bottom of D tier. Daikyu Prime is probably the hardest weapon in the entire game to use, because you need to get headshots, and it has a charging mechanic. You know, it's a bow, so you have to pull it back. It's kind of a charging mechanic. Now, the only thing going for the Snipetron Vandal, it's still the same as Daikyu. You have to get headshots on every single shot, but it doesn't have a charging mechanic. So it's slightly easier in ease of use than the Daikyu Prime is, but it's still not great. So we're still going to give it D tier for ease of use. But if we were to compare it versus the Daikyu, it's slightly easier because you don't have to charge it like you do the Daikyu. So that's my take on the weapon. Tell me what you guys think. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.